The mine alarm screamed before anyone understood why. Deep under the dead moon of Charon 9, the lower shafts of Helix Mining Station 17 went silent at exactly 3:14 station time. Not slow silence. Not fading silence. Instant silence, like sound itself had been cut. Then the heat sensors went insane. 4 massive signatures appeared deep below the rock. Too large for machinery. Too organized for cave creatures. They moved in slow circles as if they were awake and thinking. Above ground, workers were already running. Emergency lifts were shutting down one after another. The station commander ordered full evacuation, but the system replied with a simple warning. Lower mine sector. No visual confirmation possible. Structural integrity unknown. That was when Captain Elias Mercer arrived. He stepped out of the transport pod without hesitation, still fastening his armored suit. Dust from the landing pad rose around him, but his eyes were already locked on the mine entrance. He had seen panic before. He had seen collapse before. But the readings on his wrist display made him pause for the first time. 4 unknown entities. Deep underground. Moving in patterns. Not random. Controlled. A junior officer rushed toward him. Captain, you can't go down there. The entire lower grid is dead. We've lost 3 drone teams already. Elias did not look at him. That is why I am going. The mine is unstable. No one has survived a full descent since. I am not here for survival reports, Elias cut in calmly. I am here because something is still alive down there. That sentence made the officer freeze. Elias stepped into the elevator shaft without waiting for approval. The doors sealed behind him with a heavy metal thud. The lift began its descent, shaking slightly as it passed broken support levels. Lights flickered overhead, casting sharp shadows across Elias's helmet. At first there was only silence. Then the radio cracked. A soft sound came through, buried under static. Not machine noise. Not human distress call. Something else. A voice. Oh, broken. Almost afraid. Elias leaned closer to his receiver. Repeat transmission. The voice returned, clearer this time. Human? Elias stiffened. The elevator slowed as it passed level 30. The temperature dropped suddenly, then spiked. The walls of the shaft showed strange burn marks, like something had pressed heat into the metal from the other side. Why are you here? Elias did not answer immediately. His hand moved slowly to the emergency controls instead, checking oxygen flow, suit integrity, and weapon systems. Everything was stable. Nothing explained the voice. The elevator suddenly stopped. No warning. No signal. Just stopped. Red emergency lights turned on automatically, painting the shaft in a deep crimson glow. Then the floor beneath Elias vibrated once, twice, like something massive had shifted below him. The metal walls groaned. Not collapsing. Breathing. Elias took a slow step forward as the emergency hatch above him unlocked by itself. That was impossible. No system override command had been sent. Yet the seal opened, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel leading into darkness. A second voice came through the radio. Different. Stronger. Angrier. He is not part of the cycle. Elias activated his suit light. The beam cut into the tunnel, revealing claw-like marks carved into the stone walls. But they were too large to be human tools. Too deep to be natural erosion. Then the ground under him trembled again. This time it did not feel like a quake. It felt like something rising. Far below, something massive shifted upward through layers of rock as if the stone itself was soft. Elias felt pressure through his boots, like the entire mine was becoming aware of him. His suit sensors screamed. 4 heat signatures were no longer stationary. They were moving upward. Fast. Elias lowered his stance, scanning the tunnel. Unknown entities, he said quietly into his recorder, are approaching my position. Intelligent behavior confirmed. Possible sentience. The voice returned again, but now it sounded closer. Human, you should not have come. A deep crack split the tunnel wall beside him. A wave of hot air rushed out, not fire but something alive, something breathing through the stone itself. Elias raised his arm instinctively, but he did not retreat. Instead he stepped forward. The crack widened. And in the darkness beyond, something enormous opened one glowing eye. The tunnel shook again, harder this time, like the entire mine was waking up. Elias Mercer steadied himself against the cracked wall. Dust fell from above in slow sheets, and the red emergency light flickered as if it was struggling to stay alive. The glowing eye in the darkness did not blink. It simply watched him, patient and ancient. Then the voice returned, but it was no longer coming from the radio. It came from the stone itself. Human, you are deep in the prison. Elias did not move. His suit scanned everything it could, temperature spikes, energy fields, structural maps, but the results made no sense. The mine was not just a mine anymore. It was layered, built over something older. Something alive beneath it. He took one slow step forward. I am here because my station lost contact, he said calmly. If you are alive, identify yourself. A long silence followed. The pressure in the tunnel increased, like invisible weight pressing against his chest. Then the darkness shifted. Something massive moved just beyond the broken wall. Not fast. Not aggressive. Controlled. As if it had been waiting a very long time. Another voice entered his mind, different from the first. Softer but filled with exhaustion. We are the bound ones. The wall beside Elias cracked open wider, not collapsing but peeling apart like it was being gently pulled by invisible force. Through the gap he saw it. A vast cavern stretched beyond the tunnel, far larger than any mining map had shown. The ceiling was lost in darkness. The floor was covered in glowing mineral veins, pulsing like veins in a living body. And in the center of that space, chains. Not metal chains. Not normal restraints. They were made of light and stone fused together, wrapped around something enormous. For shapes were there. Dragons. But not like myths. Not like animals. They were too structured, too deliberate. Their bodies looked like living energy shaped into form, scales of shifting light, bones like compressed crystal, eyes burning with deep intelligence. Each one was bound to the cavern walls by thick restraints that sank into the rock itself. One of them lifted its head slowly. The movement alone caused the entire cavern to tremble. Elias's suit alarms spiked again. His weapon systems locked onto targets automatically, but he did not fire. His hand stayed still. The smallest dragon spoke first, its voice weaker than the others. You are not supposed to be here. Elias answered carefully. Neither are you. That response caused a shift in the air. The largest dragon moved slightly, pulling against its chains. The restraints flared bright, tightening instantly as if reacting to resistance. A deep, painful sound echoed through the cavern. The second dragon spoke, voice sharper. Do not provoke the seal. It punishes movement. Elias looked at the chains. They were not just holding the dragons. They were feeding on them. Every time the creatures moved, energy flowed from their bodies into the walls. He realized something immediately. The mine was not built on top of a prison. The mine was the prison. A sudden tremor shook the cavern. Dust fell in thick waves. One of the chains cracked slightly, releasing a burst of light that scorched the stone floor. Elias stepped forward without hesitation. The smallest dragon reacted instantly. Stop. Human, the ward is collapsing. Elias ignored the warning and activated his suit's external tools. A repair beacon extended from his wrist, standard emergency tech used for stabilizing broken structures. He aimed it at the fractured chain link. The system responded with a warning, unknown material. Interference possible. Elias still pressed forward. If this structure fails, he said, you die. I die. Everything here collapses. The largest dragon finally spoke, voice heavy like distant thunder. We do not die easily. We are contained, not fragile. Another tremor hit, stronger than before. A distant sound echoed from below the cavern, like something massive shifting under pressure. Elias froze for a fraction of a second. Something else was down there. Something the dragons were not mentioning. The smallest dragon noticed his reaction. Its glowing eyes narrowed. You hear it too. Elias didn't answer. His focus shifted downward. The ground beneath the cavern was not solid stone. It was layered, hollow in places like something vast was moving under it. A slow, deep pulse echoed upward. Boom. Then silence. The chains around the dragons flickered again, struggling to hold their charge. The second dragon lowered its head slightly, voice tense. The lower seal is reacting to your presence. Elias tightened his grip on the repair beacon. What is below this mine? No one answered immediately. Then the smallest dragon whispered, almost unwillingly, the thing we were made to contain. A cold pressure spread through Elias's chest, not fear but understanding. The mine was not a site of extraction. It was a lock. And locks only existed for things that should never be released. The ground shook again, stronger than before. One of the chains snapped halfway with a sharp burst of light. The largest dragon roared, not in anger but warning. Human, leave now. Or the fifth seal will notice you. Elias looked up sharply. Fifth seal? But before he could get an answer, the cavern floor beneath him cracked open slightly. And from deep below, something inside the darkness began to wake and respond directly to him. The crack beneath Elias's feet widened slowly, like something underneath was testing the surface instead of breaking it. A low pulse rose from the depths of the mine. Not sound in air, but vibration inside bone. The entire cavern answered it. The chained dragons reacted instantly, their glowing bodies tightening against the restraints as if the signal hurt them. Elias stepped back once, then stopped. His suit recorded everything: energy spikes rising from below, the chains destabilizing, and a strange synchronized pattern between all 4 dragons. It was not chaos. It was coordination. Like they were all listening to the same thing. The smallest dragon turned its head sharply toward him. "You are being noticed." Elias narrowed his eyes. "By what?" No answer came at first. Instead, the ground pulse returned, stronger. The cracked stone beneath him began to glow faintly, veins of light spreading outward like something underground was mapping him. Then the second dragon spoke, voice tense. "The prison core is waking because you touched its awareness boundary." Elias didn't move. "I didn't touch anything." The largest dragon gave a slow, heavy movement, pulling against its chains just enough to make the entire cavern shake again. "You exist inside it now. That is enough." A sharp sound echoed from below, like metal bending but deeper. "Older." Then came the vision. It hit Elias suddenly without warning. His suit overloaded with a burst of unknown signal, and for half a second the world disappeared. He saw darkness, but not empty darkness. It was filled with shapes. A massive structure stretching beyond understanding, like a city built inside reality itself. Layers upon layers of collapsing geometry, all holding something at the center. And at the center, a void that was not empty. It was aware. Elias gasped and stumbled back into reality, catching himself against the stone wall. His breathing was sharp, controlled but strained. The smallest dragon watched him closely. "You saw it." Elias didn't answer immediately. His mind was still stabilizing. The vision felt real, more real than the mine around him. "What was that?" he finally asked. The second dragon lowered its head slightly. "The thing beneath us." The cavern trembled again, stronger this time. One of the chains around the largest dragon cracked further, releasing a flash of energy that scorched the air. The dragons all reacted at once, not in panic but calculation. They were adjusting to the weakening seal. Elias looked at the chains again. "This is not a prison for you," he said slowly. "It's a containment system." The largest dragon responded immediately. "We are the containment system." That statement hit harder than any warning. Elias stared at them. "You are the guards." A long silence followed. Then the smallest dragon spoke, voice quieter now. "We were created to stabilize the rupture." But the rupture learned. Another pulse rose from below. This one carried weight. Pressure. Awareness. The stone beneath Elias's boots seemed to react directly to his presence now, like it was remembering him. The second dragon continued, "The thing beneath is not trapped. It is pressing upward through probability layers. This mine is the last physical anchor holding it back." Elias looked down at the cracked floor again. The glowing veins were spreading faster now. A new realization formed in his mind. The mine wasn't just above something dangerous. It was holding reality together. He activated his suit's scanning grid again, forcing deeper analysis. The system struggled, then returned fragmented results. Structure type: unknown ancient containment framework. Status: failing. Secondary entities: for confirmed stabilizers detected. Primary entity: partially awakening. Elias closed his hand into a fist. "If this structure fails, what happens?" The largest dragon answered without hesitation. "The boundary breaks, and what sleeps below becomes unbound across the system." Another tremor hit harder. Dust fell in heavy waves. One of the cavern walls split open slightly, revealing deeper darkness beyond, like another layer existed behind reality. Elias made a decision in seconds. He stepped forward. The smallest dragon reacted instantly. "Human, do not interfere. You will destabilize the seal further." Elias ignored it. He moved toward a broken chain link, studying it closely. The material wasn't metal or crystal. It was something hybrid, constructed from energy patterns and physical matter fused together by design, not nature. "This system is failing because it is damaged," he said. The second dragon responded sharply. "It is failing because it is old. Your actions will not change that." Elias extended his repair beacon anyway. The device scanned the broken link, trying to interface. Warning flashed across his visor. Interaction may cause full system collapse. He didn't stop. Then I stabilize it, he said quietly. The dragons froze. The largest one turned its head slowly toward him. You are not part of the design. Elias activated the beacon. A pulse of human engineering energy spread into the chain structure. Immediately, the cavern reacted violently. The ground shook and the chains flared with blinding light. The dragons roared, not in pain alone but in shock. Elias gritted his teeth as feedback burned through his suit systems. The interface was resisting him, rejecting foreign input. But he held it. The smallest dragon spoke urgently, almost alarmed. You are rewriting the lock pattern. Elias's voice was strained but steady. Then let it accept a new key. For a brief moment, everything stabilized. The chain stopped cracking. The pulse from below slowed. Even the void pressure beneath the mine reduced slightly as if surprised. Then silence fell across the cavern. A fragile silence. Elias looked up slowly. The dragons were staring at him now, not as intruder, not as threat, but as something else entirely. The second dragon whispered, almost disbelieving, "It responded to you." Then from deep below the mine something new stirred. Not pressure. Not vibration. A reaction. And it began moving upward toward him directly. The silence did not last. It broke like glass. A sudden shockwave erupted from deep below the mine, throwing dust and fractured stone through the cavern. Elias Mercer was slammed against the wall, his suit's impact dampeners screaming to absorb the force. The dragons reacted instantly, pulling against their chains, but this time the restraints did not just resist. They screamed back with blinding energy. The entire cavern lit up like a storm trapped underground. Elias pushed himself up slowly. His vision flickered, but he forced it steady. The repair beacon in his hand was still active but unstable. Whatever he had done had not calmed the system. It had alerted something deeper. Something had noticed him properly now. The smallest dragon's voice came through the chaos. You woke its attention. Elias wiped dust from his visor. I stabilized a failing system. That should not trigger this reaction. The second dragon pulled hard against its chains, causing the stone walls to crack further. You do not understand. It was never meant to accept input, only to resist collapse. Another wave of pressure rolled upward from below. This time it was not random. It was focused, directed, toward Elias. The ground beneath him began to glow brighter than before, veins of light spreading in a pattern that now clearly formed a shape, like an eye opening beneath the stone. The largest dragon lowered its head slightly. It is recognizing you as interference. Elias tightened his grip. Or as a variable. That statement caused a shift in the atmosphere. Even the dragons went still for a fraction of a second. Then the cavern changed. The chains holding the dragons flared violently, reacting to a new command pattern from below. Instead of restraining them normally, they began tightening in irregular sequences, like the system was prioritizing something else. The second dragon growled low. It is reallocating containment priority. Elias's suit detected the change immediately. Warning, primary seal system restructuring. Target classification, unknown human entity. Elias looked sharply upward. It's targeting me. The smallest dragon responded quietly, because you are now inside its decision layer. A deep sound rose from below. Not a roar. Not an explosion. More like something enormous shifting its awareness upward through layers of reality. The cavern floor cracked again, wider this time. But instead of collapsing, it formed a circular pattern. Like a door was being outlined from beneath the stone. Elias stepped back instinctively. The largest dragon's voice dropped lower. It is opening a contact threshold. Elias turned slightly. Contact with what? No one answered immediately. Then the second dragon spoke, voice tight. With the thing we are failing to contain. A pulse surged upward again, and this time Elias saw it clearly through his suit overlay. Not a creature. Not a machine. A structured absence. A shape that existed by removing space around itself. It pushed against the underside of the mine like a thought trying to become real. Elias felt it before he saw it properly, like gravity shifting toward something that should not exist. The chains around the dragons began to fail in sequence. One link on the largest dragon shattered completely, releasing a burst of light so intense it burned patterns into the cavern walls. The dragons roared in unison, not in freedom but strain. They were not escaping. They were holding. The smallest dragon turned sharply toward Elias. Human. The seal is collapsing faster because you interfaced with it. Your presence accelerated the recognition cycle. Elias didn't step back. He looked at the glowing cracks beneath him. Then I fix it again. The second dragon snapped back immediately. There is nothing left to fix. But Elias had already moved. He dropped to one knee and extended his repair beacon directly into the ground crack. His suit screamed warnings, overload signals flashing across his vision. The system resisted harder than before. But this time something responded. The void beneath them reacted to his interference. Not violently. Curiously. The entire cavern went still. Even the chains paused for a fraction of a second. Elias felt it, like something massive was now looking back at him properly for the first time. The largest dragon spoke slowly, almost in disbelief. It is learning you. Elias gritted his teeth as the interface burned through his suit's feedback systems. Then let it learn stability. A new wave of pressure surged upward, but instead of crushing force, it came as structured information. Elias's system translated it into fragmented patterns. Observation received. Unknown variable, human interference logic. Response, adaptation initiated. The ground crack stopped expanding. For a brief moment, everything stabilized. Elias exhaled sharply. Then the second dragon spoke, voice suddenly urgent. It is not stopping because of you. Elias looked up. The dragons were all staring at the same point now. Not him, not the chains, but the space directly beneath him. The smallest dragon whispered, "It is pausing, to understand containment through you." Elias froze. A cold realization hit him. He was not resisting the system. He was being used to test it. The cavern began to vibrate again, but differently now. Controlled. Measured. Like something beneath was reorganizing its approach based on what it had just observed. The chains tightened again, but this time in a new pattern, not to restrain the dragons but to synchronize them. The largest dragon's eyes widened slightly. It is reconfiguring us. Elias stepped back. Reconfiguring into what? The second dragon answered in a low voice. A more efficient prison. A deep pulse rose from below once more, stronger than before. And this time it did not just move upward. It began assembling itself around Elias. The cavern stopped feeling like a place. It felt like a system. Everything around Elias Mercer had changed in subtle but terrifying ways. The glowing veins in the stone were no longer random cracks of energy, they were forming structured lines, like a living diagram being rewritten in real time. The dragons were no longer just chained. They were synchronized. Each movement they made now triggered a response somewhere deep below, as if the entire mind had become a thinking machine that was adjusting itself around Elias's presence. He stood still, breathing steady, watching it all unfold. The largest dragon spoke first, voice heavier than before. It is no longer reacting to containment failure. The second dragon followed, tense. It is adapting containment design. The smallest dragon looked directly at Elias. You are the reference point now. Elias did not answer immediately. His suit was still running diagnostics, but most systems were failing to interpret what was happening. The mine was not collapsing. It was evolving. Another pulse rose from below, but this one was different. It did not shake the cavern. It stabilized it. The broken chains around the dragons began to reform, not as restraints, but as layered energy patterns that aligned perfectly with Elias's repair signature. He took a slow step back. The stone beneath him responded instantly, adjusting its structure to maintain his position. Elias whispered, "It's building around me." The second dragon's voice was low. "It is learning stabilization through your interference pattern." A cold realization formed in Elias's mind. The entity below was not trying to escape. It was trying to understand control. And Elias had become its only example. The cavern darkened slightly as the glowing patterns shifted again. Now, instead of cracks and chains, the entire space looked like a sealed neural network. 4 dragons acting as anchor nodes and Elias acting as a fifth point of connection. The smallest dragon's eyes narrowed. It is integrating you into the containment logic. Elias tightened his hand around the repair beacon, but the device was no longer responding normally. It pulsed weakly as if partially absorbed into the system itself. "I never agreed to that," he said quietly. The largest dragon gave a slow, heavy movement. "Agreement is not required. Function is." Another vibration rose from below, but instead of force it came as structured calm. The mine was stabilizing faster than before. The cracks stopped expanding. The collapsing pressure reversed slightly. For a brief moment it looked like success. Then the second dragon spoke again, voice sharp. It is finishing the model. Elias looked down. The glowing lines beneath his feet formed a complete circle now. Not a random shape. A full containment diagram. And at the center of it, him. A sudden wave of pressure locked into place. Not physical restraint. Conceptual restraint. Elias felt it in his mind first. The system was defining his role. Stabilization node classification. Human interface. Function. Real-time containment calibration. He staggered slightly. The smallest dragon reacted immediately. It is assigning you a permanent function inside the seal. Elias gritted his teeth. I am not part of your system. The largest dragon replied, slower now. You are now part of its understanding of systems. The cavern trembled again, but not in collapse. In completion. The dragon's chains reconfigured one final time, forming a stable lattice that no longer looked like imprisonment. It looked like architecture. A structure built to hold something vast beneath reality. And Elias was now embedded in that structure. A deep silence followed. Then, from below the mine, something responded again. But this time it was not pushing upward. It was observing. The second dragon lowered its head. It has accepted the new containment model. Elias exhaled slowly. So it's over. The smallest dragon hesitated. No. Pause. Then it continued, quieter. It has only accepted the current version. Elias slowly turned his head. Current version? The largest dragon spoke with final weight. It learns through repetition. Through failure. Through adaptation. You gave it a human reference point for control. The cavern lights dimmed slightly as if the system itself was conserving awareness. Elias looked down at the glowing pattern beneath him. Then I helped it evolve. The second dragon answered simply. Yes. A long silence settled across the mine. Then very faintly Elias heard it. Not through radio. Not through stone. But directly in thought. A calm, structured presence beneath everything. Not hungry anymore. Just aware. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. Then opened them again. The dragons were still watching him, but differently now. Not as prisoner and captor. Not as enemy and ally. As co-components of a system that had just rewritten itself. The smallest dragon spoke one last time, softer than before. You are now the anchor node. Elias looked up slowly. And what does that mean? Pause. Then the second dragon answered. It means the seal will hold, as long as you remain. A quiet tension filled the cavern. Elias understood the cost instantly. He was not a visitor anymore. He was part of the lock. The ground beneath him pulsed once more, stable, controlled, alive. Far below, the entity that should never wake remained contained, but not defeated. And as Elias stood in the center of the living prison, a final thought formed, not in fear but in realization. This was not a mine anymore. It was a kingdom of restraint. And he was now its living boundary. Deep in the silence beneath everything, the void stirred once more, not breaking the seal but studying it. Learning patience. Waiting for the moment the anchor might weaken.